The dusk market never slept. It lived in the belly of station like a disease, spreading through old cargo bays and forgotten corridors. Here, at the edge of controlled space, laws were suggestions and morality was something people left at the docking ports. Ho walked through the crowd with his head down and his hands visible. He had learned long ago that looking dangerous invited trouble. Better to look like what he was, a tired cargo runner making a delivery. The medical supplies in his hold were worth 3 months of fuel. A small clinic on the station's upper levels had paid him well to bring them from the core worlds. Legal goods, clean money, the kind of job he preferred these days. He was 36 years old. His black hair was cut short, and a thin scar ran from his left eyebrow to his cheek. He wore simple clothes, dark jacket, work pants, boots that had seen better years. Nothing about him said soldier. Nothing said dangerous. That was the point. Ho finished his delivery and collected his payment. 20,000 credits sat in his account now, enough to repair his ship, buy fuel, and maybe eat something better than protein paste for a few weeks. He allowed himself a small smile as he walked back toward the docking level. He took a shortcut through the lower market. This was a mistake. The crowd grew thicker here. The smell changed, sweat and fear mixed with the sharp scent of alien spices. Ho heard shouting ahead and tried to turn back, but the crowd pushed him forward. He emerged into an open space. A platform stood in the center, raised high enough for everyone to see. Bright lights hung above it, cutting through the station's eternal dusk. It was an auction, a slave auction. Ho felt his stomach turn. He had seen this before on other stations in other dark corners of the galaxy. He had walked away before. He had told himself it was not his fight, not his problem, not something one man could change. On the platform stood 7 figures in chains. Most were species he did not recognize, tall, short, scaled, furred. They stood with empty eyes, already broken by whatever horrors had brought them here. But one figure was small, very small. She could not have been more than 6 cycles old. Her skin was pale blue, almost white under the harsh lights. Her eyes were large and dark, filled with terror. A metal muzzle covered the lower half of her face, preventing her from speaking or biting. She was. Ho stopped breathing for a moment. Everyone in the galaxy knew they were one of the oldest species, respected by all major powers. They had signed treaties with 100 worlds. Their children were protected by laws that carried death sentences for violators. And yet here one stood in chains, about to be sold. The auctioneer was a massive creature called He stood 9 feet tall, his gray skin thick as armor, his 4 arms spread wide as he addressed the crowd. His name was, and even Ho had heard of him, crime lord, murderer, protected by politicians who took his money and looked away from his sins. A rare find, announced, his voice deep and amused. Young female, healthy, trainable. The starting bid is 50,000 credits. The crowd murmured. Some looked uncomfortable, most looked excited. Ho looked at the child. She was shaking so hard he could see it from 20 meters away. Her small hands were bound in front of her. Her feet were bare and dirty. He thought about walking away. He thought about his ship, his fuel, his life. He thought about all the times he had walked away before. He thought about the dreams that still woke him at night, the faces of people he had failed to save. No, he decided, not this time. 60,000, someone called from the crowd. 70, another voice added. Ho pushed forward, 100,000. The crowd went quiet, turned his massive head toward the voice. His 4 eyes found Ho and narrowed with interest. The human bids 100,000, said slowly. Do I hear more? Silence. The other bidders looked at Ho with confusion. Why would a human pay so much for a child? What could he possibly want with her? Ho did not care what they thought. He walked toward the platform, reaching for his credit chip. His hands were steady, but inside his heart was pounding. Smiled, it was not a pleasant expression. Sold to the human, come little man, pay for your prize. Ho climbed onto the platform. Up close was even more terrifying, a mountain of muscle and malice. But Ho did not look at him. He looked at the child. She stared back at him with those huge dark eyes. He saw fear there and confusion and something else. A tiny spark of hope. He transferred the credits, all of them, every single credit he had earned for 3 months of work. His account now showed 0. Laughed as he unlocked the child's chains. Foolish human, what will you do with her? She cannot even speak. Ho did not answer. He knelt down slowly, making himself small, making himself less threatening. He held out his hand to the child. She hesitated. Then slowly she reached out and took it. Her fingers were cold, so small in his rough palm. "Come on," Ho said softly. "Let us leave this place." He lifted her gently and carried her toward the edge of the platform. The crowd parted for him, still confused by what they had witnessed. A human spending everything he had for an alien child. It made no sense to them. It made perfect sense to Ho. He was almost out of the market when a voice stopped him. "Human." He turned. His lieutenant stood there, a lean with scars across his face. He smiled the same ugly smile as his master. "You have until station dark," the lieutenant said quietly, so only Ho could hear. "Then we come for her. We take back what is ours, and we take pieces of you as payment for wasting our time." Ho stared at him for a long moment. Then he turned and kept walking. The child pressed her face against his shoulder. She was still shaking, but she held on to him tightly, her small fingers gripping his jacket. "It is okay," Ho whispered to her. "I am going to get you out of here." He did not know how yet. His ship was on the far side of the station. Station Dark was only 3 hours away, had dozens of soldiers, and Ho was one man with no money and no allies. But he had made a promise, and Ho did not break his promises. He walked faster, the child in his arms, and began planning how to survive the night. Ho found an access panel behind a food stall and pulled it open. The old maintenance tunnels of station waited beyond, dark, rusted, and forgotten. Most people avoided them. That made them perfect. He climbed inside and pulled the child in after him. She made no sound, even when the metal scraped against her arms. She simply held on to him and trusted him to know where he was going. He wished he deserved that trust. The tunnels were a maze. Pipes ran along the ceiling, some leaking steam, others dripping water that smelled like chemicals. The floor was metal grating and every step echoed in the darkness. Ho moved carefully, listening for sounds of pursuit. "My name is Ho," he said quietly to the child. "Can you tell me your name?" She looked up at him with those large, dark eyes. Her mouth was still covered by the metal muzzle. Ho stopped walking and knelt in front of her. "Let me take that off," he said. The muzzle had a simple lock. He had seen similar devices before, on prisoners and slaves. He found a thin piece of metal in his pocket and worked the lock until it clicked open. The muzzle fell away. The child touched her face with trembling fingers. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Only a small, broken sound. "It is okay," Ho said. "You do not have to talk. Can you show me your name? Write it with your finger." She hesitated. Then she reached out and traced letters on his palm. Her touch was light, barely there, but he felt each stroke clearly. "Lir80." He said, "That is a beautiful name." For the first time she almost smiled. It was small and quick, but it was there. A sound echoed from somewhere behind them. Footsteps, heavy ones. Ho stood and took his hand. "We need to move." They went deeper into the tunnels. The lights grew fewer, the darkness thicker. Ho's eyes adjusted slowly, but he knew his hunters would have better vision. They could see in complete darkness. He was fighting at a disadvantage. But he had fought at a disadvantage before. He found a small alcove where 2 tunnels met and sat inside it. "Stay here," he told her. "Do not make any sound. I will come back for you." Fear filled her eyes. She grabbed his hand and would not let go. Ho knelt again. "Listen to me, bad people are coming. I have to stop them, but I need you to be brave. Can you do that for me?" She stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Ho reached under his jacket. One by one he drew out his weapons. 8 blades. 4 were strapped to his back, long fighting knives with curved edges, designed for quick killing. 2 were on his thighs, shorter, heavier, meant for close combat. 2 were on his forearms, thin and fast, perfect for sudden strikes. He had carried these blades for 15 years. They had saved his life more times than he could count. They had also taken more lives than he wanted to remember. Watched him with wide eyes. She had never seen so many weapons on one person before. "I was a soldier once," Ho explained quietly. "A long time ago. I did not like what the job made me become, so I left, but I kept these just in case." He touched her head gently. "Stay hidden, I will be back." Then he disappeared into the darkness. The first hunter found him 10 minutes later, a warrior, tall and strong, carrying an energy rifle. He moved through the tunnel with confidence, his 4 eyes scanning the shadows. He never saw Ho. The human came from above, dropping from a pipe in the ceiling. One blade went through his throat before he could make a sound. Ho pulled the knife free and kept moving. He left the blade in the body. Pulling it out would cost precious seconds. He still had 7 more. The second hunter was smarter. He traveled with a partner, both of them watching different angles. Ho waited until they separated at a junction, then took them one at a time. The first died quietly. The second heard something and turned, raising his weapon. Ho was faster. The blade found the gap between armor plates. The hunter fell. 2 more knives gone, 5 left. His shoulder burned where a lucky shot had grazed him. Blood soaked through his jacket. He ignored it and kept moving. The third and fourth hunters came together. They were ready this time, moving back to back, covering each other. They had found the bodies. They knew something dangerous was in the tunnels with them. Ho used their fear against them. He threw a piece of metal down a side corridor. Both hunters turned toward the sound. In that moment of distraction, he struck. The fight was not clean. One of them got a hand on him, claws raking across his ribs. Pain exploded through his body. He drove his blade up through the hunter's jaw and twisted. The second hunter swung at him and he ducked, feeling the air move above his head. His knife found the hunter's stomach. 4 down, 4 to go, 4 blades left. He was bleeding badly now, 3 wounds that needed treatment, but there was no time. He could hear more footsteps approaching. Ho moved deeper into the tunnels, leaving a trail of blood behind him. The 5th hunter almost killed him. He was faster than the others, better trained. Their fight lasted nearly a minute, an eternity in close combat. Ho took a blade across his arm and nearly lost his grip on his own knife. But he was fighting for something more than himself. He found his opening and took it. The hunter fell. 3 blades, 3 hunters left. His vision was starting to blur, too much blood loss. His hands were shaking, every breath hurt. But he kept going. The 6th hunter was young and scared. Ho almost felt sorry for him. Almost. The 7th was old and experienced. He gave Ho the hardest fight yet. By the end, they were both on the ground, and only one of them got back up. 1 blade left, 1 hunter remaining. Ho found the last one guarding the junction that led to his hiding spot. They saw him coming and smiled. "You look dead already, human," the hunter said. "Just lie down, make it easy." Ho raised his final blade. "Come take her, see what happens." They came together in the darkness. They was stronger, but Ho was desperate. He fought with everything he had left, every technique he had learned, every trick that had kept him alive through a dozen wars. The blade found its target. The hunter fell. Ho stood alone in the tunnel, surrounded by the bodies of his enemies. His last knife was still buried in the eighth hunter's chest. He did not have the strength to pull it out. He stumbled back towards hiding spot. She was still there, pressed into the shadows, her eyes huge in the darkness. "Still here," he whispered to her, "still going." He found a small storage room nearby and carried her inside. His hands left bloody prints on the door as he barricaded it with old crates and broken machinery. It would not hold forever, but it would hold long enough. He sat down against the wall and pulled close. She was shaking again, but this time she pressed herself against him instead of pulling away. Her small hands gripped his jacket. "Sleep," he told her. "I will keep watch." He meant it, he truly did. But his eyes closed on their own, and darkness took him. Ho woke to silence. That was wrong. He should have heard the station systems humming, the distant sounds of the market, the footsteps of more hunters coming for them. But there was nothing, just quiet. He opened his eyes slowly. Pain filled his body immediately, his ribs, his shoulder, his arm, a dozen smaller wounds he had forgotten about. But the pain meant he was still alive. The barricade was gone. Ho's heart stopped. The crates and machinery he had piled against the door had been moved aside, quietly, without waking him. Someone was in the room with them. He reached for a blade that was not there. His hands found only empty sheaths. All 8 knives were gone, left in the bodies of his enemies. Was still pressed against him, her small body warm and alive. That was something. But if someone had gotten past the barricade without making a sound. Ho looked up. The room was full of figures. They stood in a circle around him, 12 of them, tall and still as statues. Their skin was the same pale blue as. Their eyes were large and dark and watched him without blinking. 12 warriors. Ho moved on instinct. He put himself between and the strangers, ignoring the agony that shot through his wounds. He could barely stand, but he stood anyway. He had no weapons, but he raised his fists. "You will not touch her," he said. They did not attack. They did not even move. One of them stepped forward. She was taller than the others, nearly 7 feet, with silver hair that fell past her shoulders. Her armor was different, darker, marked with symbols he did not recognize. Everything about her spoke of authority and danger. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She knelt. Behind her, all 12 warriors knelt as one. Ho stared at them, his fists still raised, his mind unable to process what was happening. "Human," the tall one said. Her voice was calm and clear. I am commander of the Silent Blades. We are not here to harm you or the child. We are here because you saved her." "I do not understand," Ho said. Rose gracefully. "May I approach? Our medic wishes to treat your wounds. You are dying, human. The blood loss alone should have killed you by now." Ho hesitated. He looked down at. She was awake now, peeking out from behind him. Her eyes moved between him and the warriors. Then she did something that made his heart ache. She stepped out from behind him and walked toward. She reached up and touched the commander's hand. Knelt again, bringing herself to the child's level. Something passed between them, recognition, perhaps, or memory. The commander's cold expression softened. "Amaris," said gently, "we have been searching for you for 3 years. Your mother has never stopped crying. Your father has never stopped fighting. And now, at last, you are found." Ho's legs gave out. He fell against the wall, sliding down until he sat on the cold floor. "Who is she?" he asked. Looked at him. "She is the last daughter of the royal bloodline, the princess of our people, the most protected child in our entire civilization." "She was being sold as a slave," Ho said, "in the open market." Yes, something cold and terrible entered his eyes, and many people will answer for that failure. But first, you need medical attention. She gestured and a smaller came forward. This one carried a case of medical supplies. Without waiting for permission, he began treating Ho's wounds. The pain was incredible as the medic worked, cleaning, sealing, injecting things that burned and then numbed. Ho bit down on his tongue to keep from screaming. Watched him. Our scouts followed operation here. We arrived to assault his compound, but first we searched the tunnels. We found 8 of his best hunters dead. She paused. Each one was killed with a single blade strike. Quick, clean, professional. I have trained warriors for 60 years, human. I have never seen blade work like this. They were in my way, Ho said through gritted teeth. They were elite, each one trained since birth for combat, each one stronger, faster, and better equipped than any human, tilted her head. And yet you killed all 8 of them, alone, in darkness, while protecting a child. Ho did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing. Came back to him. She sat beside him and took his hand, holding it carefully to avoid his wounds. Her dark eyes looked up at, then back to Ho. Watched this with an expression Ho could not read. Why? She asked finally. Why what? Why did you do this? You are human, she is. You had no obligation to her, no connection. You spent everything you had to buy her freedom, and then you nearly died defending her. Why? Ho looked at. She was still holding his hand, her grip gentle but firm. She had not let go of him since the market. Because no one else was going to, he said. Was quiet for a long time. Around her the silent blades remained motionless, waiting. Still lives, she said finally. He has 40 soldiers guarding his compound. Ho's jaw tightened. He tried to stand. The medic pushed him back down. Give me a blade, Ho said. I will finish it. No, raised a hand. You have done enough, more than enough, now you rest. He will come for her again, as long as he lives. He will not live much longer. The cold returned to his eyes. The silent blades have never failed a mission. We will bring you his head before dawn. She turned to her warriors and spoke in the language. They responded with perfect synchronization, moving toward the door. Looked back at Ho one final time. Stay with the princess. 2 of my warriors will guard you. When we return, we will talk about what comes next. What comes next? Ho repeated, but was already gone, moving into the darkness without a sound. Pressed closer to him. Her free hand found his jacket and gripped it tightly. It is okay, Ho told her. You are safe now, your people found you. She shook her head slowly. What is wrong? She let go of his hand and traced letters on his palm again. Her touch was firmer this time, more certain. Stay. Ho looked at her. At this child who had survived 3 years of captivity, who had been sold like property, who had watched him fight and bleed for her without knowing his name. I am not going anywhere, he promised. She almost smiled again. Then she leaned against him and closed her eyes. The 2 guards stood at the door, silent and watchful. The medic finished his work and moved to check on the princess, running scanners over her to ensure her health. Ho sat in the darkness and waited. His body hurt. His mind was exhausted. But for the first time in a long time, he felt something other than guilt. He felt like maybe he had done something right. Somewhere in the station, the silent blades were hunting, and time was running out. His compound occupied the entire lower section of the station's west arm. 40 soldiers patrolled its corridors. Automated turrets covered every entrance. Security systems worth millions of credits watched every shadow. None of it mattered. The silent blades moved like ghosts through the station. They wore no armor because armor made noise. They carried no visible weapons because their bodies were weapons. They had trained since childhood to kill without being seen, and they had never failed. Commander led from the front. She had studied the compound's layout during the journey here. She knew every corridor, every guard rotation, every blind spot in the security grid. The first soldier died without knowing he was under attack. One moment he was walking his patrol. The next moment he was on the ground, his neck twisted at an angle that meant death. The silent blades moved on. They worked in pairs, clearing rooms with perfect coordination. Their communication was entirely silent, hand signals and shared understanding built over decades of training. A gesture meant two targets left and right. A nod meant I take left. A blink meant now. Bodies fell. Soldiers were not weak. Many of them were former military, trained killers with years of experience. Against any normal enemy, they would have been deadly. But the silent blades were not normal. A warrior twice the size of any swung his weapon in a wide arc. The simply was not there anymore. She had moved before he even started swinging, reading his intentions from the shift in his weight. Her strike came from behind, precise and final. Another soldier raised an alarm. The sound died in his throat along with him. In the security room, 3 guards watched their screens with growing horror. Soldiers were disappearing from the feeds one by one. They had stopped responding to communications. The guards prepared to seal themselves inside and call for help. The door opened. A stood in the entrance, her dark eyes calm. "You have 2 choices," she said. "Surrender or join your friends." The guards surrendered. Outside the compound, the station continued its normal operations. Merchants sold their goods. Ships docked and departed. People went about their lives without knowing that death was walking through the corridors below. By the time the silent blades reached inner chambers, 37 of his 40 soldiers were dead or captured. The remaining 3 had barricaded themselves inside with their master. Stood before the reinforced door. Behind her, her warriors waited in perfect stillness. She called out, "Crime lord, slaver, thief of children, your time has ended. Open this door and face your death with dignity, or we will come through it and give you none." From inside, his voice echoed with false confidence. "You cannot threaten me. I have friends in high places. The station masters will." "The station masters have been paid a sum larger than your entire fortune," interrupted. "They are currently very busy looking the other way. No one is coming to save you. No one ever was." Silence from inside. Gestured to 2 of her warriors. They moved to the door and placed small devices against its surface. A moment later, the reinforced metal melted inward like butter in a hot pan. The 3 remaining soldiers opened fire. Energy blasts filled the corridor with deadly light. The silent blades were not in the corridor anymore. They came through the walls, through the ceiling, through gaps that should not have been large enough for any living being to fit. They moved so fast that the soldiers' weapons could not track them. It was over in seconds. Stood alone in the center of his chambers. He was even larger than Ho had thought, a mountain of gray flesh and muscle. His 4 arms held weapons, but he made no move to use them. "Who are you?" he demanded. Stepped forward. In the dim light she looked almost ghostly, her pale blue skin glowing faintly. "I am commander of the Silent Blades. You stole something precious from the Dominion, a child of royal blood, our princess." His face changed, understanding and with it fear. "I did not know who she was just another piece of cargo." "Yes, that is precisely the problem." Drew a blade from her sleeve. It was thin and elegant, shining with inner light. "You looked at a child and saw a piece of cargo. You looked at a life and saw a profit. And now you will answer for it." Wait dropped his weapons. "I can pay. I have information. I can tell you who hired me, who set up the abduction, who—" "We already know," moved closer. "We have known for 2 years. What we needed was the princess's location. Now we have that too." She stopped just out of his reach. "Thanks to a human." "A human," confusion mixed with the fear in his eyes. "Yes, a cargo runner with no money, no power, no reason to act. He bought the princess with everything he had. Then when you sent hunters to take her back, he killed them all. 8 of your best warriors. 1 human, 8 blades in the darkness." Shook his massive head. That is impossible. I would have said the same, raised her blade. But I saw the bodies, I saw the wounds. I know combat when I see it, and what that human did was extraordinary. She struck. It was quick, almost merciful considering what had done. The crime lord fell, cleaned her blade and turned to her warriors. Leave the lieutenant alive. Let him spread the word of what happens to those who harm our children. Burn the rest. The silent blades moved to obey. When they returned to the storage room where Ho waited, dawn was approaching on the station's artificial cycle. Carried something in her hand, a metal sigil carved with personal symbol. Ho was awake. The medic had done excellent work and his wounds were already healing. Sat beside him, drawing shapes on the floor with her finger. "It is done," announced. "Is dead. His operation is destroyed. The princess is safe." Ho nodded slowly. He had expected this news, but hearing it still brought relief. Held out the sigil. "Custom. The one who begins a battle of honor receives the trophy even if others finish the fight. You bought her freedom. You killed the first hunters. This belongs to you." Ho took the sigil. It was heavier than it looked. "Thank you." Remained standing before him. Her warriors spread out behind her. Something formal was happening, Ho realized. Something important. "Human, Ho," spoke each word carefully. "The Dominion recognizes a debt that cannot be repaid. Our princess lives because of your actions. Your willingness to sacrifice everything for a child you did not know has earned our eternal gratitude." She reached up and removed a pendant from her neck. It was made of the same strange metal as her blade, carved with symbols that seemed to shift in the light. "From this day forward you are," she declared, "kin of our blood. Any who sees this symbol will know what you did. They will protect you as you protected us. They will die for you as you were willing to die for our princess." She placed the pendant in his hands. Ho stared at it. He did not know what to say. He had never asked for recognition. He had only done what needed to be done. Stood and walked to his side. She looked up at him with those large, dark eyes. Her hand found his again. Then she spoke, her first word since the rescue, small and quiet but perfectly clear. "Home." Something broke inside Ho. He knelt down and met her eyes. "Yes," he said, "let us take you home." 3 months had passed since Ho brought the princess home. It was beautiful in ways he had never imagined. Forests of white trees grew beneath twin suns. Cities of crystal towers rose from gentle hills. Rivers ran silver under pale skies, and everywhere he looked there was peace. He did not belong here. The royal compound where he stayed was larger than any building he had ever entered. His room had windows that looked out over gardens where children played and elders walked in quiet meditation. Servants brought him food he could not name, prepared in ways he did not understand. Every comfort was provided. But comfort was not the same as belonging. Was healing. That was the important thing. In 3 months she had transformed from a frightened, silent child into someone who smiled easily and spoke often. She followed Ho everywhere, refusing to let him out of her sight for more than a few hours at a time. The royal family had welcomed her back with tears and joy. Her mother had held her for hours, crying into her hair. Her father had stood silently, his face a mask of emotion too deep for words. They had thanked Ho 1,000 times in 1,000 ways. But there were others who did not welcome him. The court was old and proud. Many of its members did not like seeing a human walking their ancient halls. They whispered about him when they thought he could not hear. They questioned why the princess spent more time with her human rescuer than with her own people. Ho understood their concerns. He was an outsider, a cargo runner from a species that many in the galaxy still considered primitive and dangerous. No amount of honor or gratitude could change what he was. So he made a decision. He would leave, quietly without ceremony. He would slip away in the night and return to his ship and his old life. Had her family now. She had her people. She did not need him anymore. He packed his few belongings and waited for darkness. A knock came at his door. Stood in the hallway, her pale blue skin glowing faintly in the evening light. She was dressed in the fine clothes of royalty now, nothing like the rags she had worn in the slave market. But her eyes were the same, large and dark and seeing too much. "You are leaving," she said. It was not a question. Ho sighed. "How did you know?" "I know you." She stepped into his room and looked around at his packed bag. "You have been sad for weeks. You do not smile at the gardens or the food. You look at the sky like you are searching for something you lost." "I am not sad, I am just out of place." "No," she shook her head firmly. "You belong here, you belong with me." Tears filled her eyes. She crossed the room and grabbed his hand with both of hers. "You are my shield, father," she said. "That is what we call someone who protects without blood obligation, someone who chooses to guard a child that is not their own. It is the highest honor a can give. You cannot leave. I will not allow it." Ho knelt down to meet her eyes. "Your family." "My family loves me, but you saved me. You carried me through darkness when everyone else looked away. You gave everything you had for someone you did not know." Her voice broke. "Do not leave me, please." Ho felt something crack inside his chest. The same thing that had cracked in the slave market 3 months ago. The same thing that made him spend his last credit for a child he had never met. "I do not know how to live here," he admitted. "I do not know your customs, your language, your ways. I am a soldier and a cargo runner. I do not know how to be anything else." "Then learn," squeezed his hand. "I will teach you, we will teach each other." Before he could respond, another voice spoke from the doorway. "She is right, you know." Commander stood at the entrance. She had exchanged her armor for simple traveling clothes, but she still carried herself like the warrior she was. "Commander," Ho said, rising to his feet, "I did not hear you approach." "You never will." A rare smile touched her lips. "May I come in?" He nodded, entered and looked around the room. She saw the packed bag and said nothing about it. "The Silent Blades have been studying your work," she said instead. "We recovered footage from the tunnel surveillance systems. We analyzed every movement, every strike, every decision you made during that fight. And we have never seen anything like it." She met his eyes. "Humans are strange, Ho. Your bodies are fragile compared to most species. You lack natural weapons. You see poorly in darkness, hear poorly in the ranges that matter, and your reflexes are slower than a dozen species I could name." "Thank you for the encouragement," Ho said dryly. Actually laughed. "And yet when you are protecting something, you become something else entirely. Your bodies ignore damage that should stop them. Your fear becomes fuel instead of paralysis. Your pain becomes anger and your anger becomes focus." She stepped closer. "You fought 8 trained warriors in darkness, with wounds that should have killed you 3 times over. You made killing strikes against enemies who could see perfectly while you were nearly blind. You moved faster and hit harder than your physiology should allow." She paused. "My trainers call it the human protective response. They have studied warriors from 100 worlds, and they say that no species in the galaxy transforms the way humans do when defending someone they care about. It is terrifying, and it is beautiful." Ho did not know what to say. "I have a proposal," continued. "The Silent Blades are the finest warriors in civilization, but we can always improve. We want you to train us, teach us human combat doctrine, show us how your people fight when everything is on the line." "You want me to train the Silent Blades?" "I want you to stay," glanced at who was still holding Ho's hand. "She needs you, more than she needs us, I think. You are her shield, father, whether you accept the title or not. You cannot run from that." Ho looked at the window where the twin suns were setting over forests of white trees. His ship was waiting. His old life was waiting. He could leave all this behind and return to what he knew. But what he knew was loneliness. What he knew was running from the guilt of people he had failed to save. What he knew was empty spaces and cold nights, and the feeling that his life meant nothing to anyone. Here he meant something. Here he had saved someone. "Okay," he said quietly, "I will stay." Threw her arms around him, smiled. 1 year later, Ho stood in a training courtyard, surrounded by warriors. His movements were sharp and precise as he demonstrated a combat technique. The warriors watched with perfect attention, memorizing every detail. Nearby, practiced basic blade forms. She was older now, stronger, determined to learn the skills that had saved her life. She would never be helpless again. Watched from a doorway, her expression thoughtful. She had become something like a friend to Ho over the past year. They understood each other in the way that only warriors could. On Ho's belt hung 8 new blades. Each one had been forged by master smiths from the finest metals in the galaxy. Each one was inscribed with the name of a hunter he had killed in the tunnels of Station. A young trainee approached him after the session. "Master," she said hesitantly, "may I ask a question?" "Of course." "Why do you carry 8 blades? It seems like more than one person would ever need." Ho looked across the courtyard at. She had finished her practice and was walking toward him, a smile on her face. "To remember," he said, "to remember that one life is worth any number of them." The trainee bowed and stepped back, clearly moved by his words. Reached him and took his hand just as she had done 1,000 times before. It was a gesture of trust, of love, of family. "Coming to dinner?" she asked. Ho smiled. "Yes," he said, "let us go home." They walked together toward the compound, the setting suns casting long shadows behind them. In his heart, Ho carried the weight of 8 blades and the lightness of a child's hand in his. He had finally found where he belonged.